So last week you were building changing rooms, was it?
Yes, the long-awaited changing rooms. They're done now, thank Christ. But they'll be a massive asset to the service now, as opposed to having to come and getting changed out in the bloody car park and just get into the sauna. So it's great.
Yeah. And where are the change rooms? Because with the fad sale, didn't you start off with like a mobile sauna?
Yeah, so started a business, started in 2019, launched it with in conjunction with Ironman 70.3 in Dunleary. So I was up at the 40 foot there. So for that week, all the Ironman athletes were able to avail of it for like their recovery just before the big race. And I was classing them. We operated officially that week, that weekend even to the public. And then yeah, so it was originally on a barrel. There's a barrel shaped unit just on like a custom built trailer, and that was great. But we were restricted with a lot of time wise and days wise that we could operate, and we had no like guarantee of parking space. Even it was that kind of loose. So like we were getting, I'd be up at bloody 4 o'clock in the morning to get that thing down there to burn it up, get it nice and hot, and make sure that we had our spot secured before anybody else did. So it just wasn't really sustainable. Like, so it was always about reducing, reducing, reducing. So reducing the workload, reducing the costing, reducing everything. There's always the kind of game plan to get a functioning business, I suppose. Like, so
Yeah. And then the one you've built, is that at the 40 foot as well? I've seen photos.
no, so then again during lockdown, so our first lockdown, oh no, lockdown 2.0, we'll call it. The long term business plan was to again reduce the workload, so reduce the mobility side of the business, to have like more semi permanent structure that can be introduced into communities. So the kind of longer term project was the shipping container. So it's one of the blessings of COVID that it sped that idea up and that concept up. So we built that up, and then yeah, we had it down in Greystones, and then we also had it down on Bray Beach for a week for a kind of pop up for the week, and we managed to get the All Blacks in for that, so that was pretty cool. And then now we're back down in Greystones again, and we have the two units down there now. So we're going to set up the second studio with the old original barrel. So the two of them will be running down in Greystones. So you'll have one for like your kind of, I suppose, more quaint private sessions, and then the other for the kind of communal sauna experience.
Class. And so I love swimming in the sea and I love saunas as well.
Especially over in
Yeah,
Canada.
no, yeah, yeah, no, I love it. And I'm lucky that the sauna here is like right near the sea anyway, but it's incredible going into the sea and jumping into the sauna right after.
Yeah, like it's regardless of what your initial expectations are of it, do that and tell me you don't feel good, and I will be beyond like just there's no way you can't feel good, like, you know what I mean. So yeah, no, it was a passion of mine always. I always see swam, and from a young age, and then going through the rugby circles, then when you get told it's actually very good for you, science seal delivered. Never had to look back since. And then sauna was always preached as a recovery method, so doubling down on both just made total sense. And fixing a problem with trying to get people's mindset to change about actually getting into the cold sea was always the task in my head. Trying to drag somebody to come for a swim, and when you're fixing the problem, you provide heat, and that was kind of it in a nutshell, really. Like,
Yeah, it is hard to explain to people how good it is, isn't it? Like you say to them, "Oh, jump in the freezing cold sea. It's brilliant. It's great. It's lovely." And that is difficult, isn't it?
absolutely, like, sure, nothing until you experience it anyway. But like, um, especially, I suppose, like, it can get so misinformed, like Chinese whispers, like where somebody who does wholeheartedly embody that lifestyle experience obviously is going to come out being like, geez, that was brilliant, that was the best thing ever now, and kind of just put to the back of their head what they've just went through of like a 5 degree sea swim. Like, that is not an easy thing to do, and I don't care who you are, like, you're gonna feel it. But you might have just built a tolerance to it, or your why is big enough that it doesn't even come into your radar. So yeah, trying to explain it is difficult enough. So we're only starting really.
Yeah. And have you seen a lot of people like, say like converted, we'll say?
Yeah, like I mean, it's hilarious. So it's kind of like the usual way that it happens is that like one eager beaver will drag a group down, and I love that because that's how it happened with me. Like, as in, we started a swim club way back when, and it was I provide a coffee to promise you a bit of heat afterwards and mark the occasion and say congrats with a reward, like. And then there's people who are very into it who get to introduce it to their friends who aren't as like-minded as them. So once they do it, as we just spoke about before, it's hard not to enjoy the experience, because the tough part is trying to overcome this trauma that you've had, whatever it was when you were younger. You've had a bad negative experience from the sea, never go near that again. So it's difficult to overcome that. But then you ask them, but what if I told you I could guarantee that you're going to be warm straight afterwards? And then they go, how? And then you say, so, well, there's a sauna there, book it in, and it eliminates all the problems. And you just get to reap the benefits of both. So conversion rate definitely, as in like once you do it once, you're not looking back. Like,
Yeah, it's class. And it's interesting there, like you're talking about like the adversity of getting into the sea and even the sauna, like if you stay in for if you like I try and stay for 20 minutes or whatever, like it's you're chilling in the first couple minutes, but then it's also similar kind of head game that you have
yeah,
to stay in the fight kind of, and it's like with anything. It's like going to the gym, it's like going for a run, it's like getting up early, isn't it? It's that's a huge part of the sea swim or the sauna is overcoming that adversity, and you feel incredible because there's all those positive endorphins and all that science, but you feel unreal for having done it.
yeah. I mean, like it's like anything that you're just saying there, bro. Like, isn't like a sense of achievement. Big fan of win in the morning and win in the day kind of thing. And I know it's quite cliche, but like, it's very difficult to do something like that in the morning and have a bad day. Because no matter what your occupation is, or no matter what the day that lies ahead of you is, you've banked in that one part that you have put aside for yourself. So yes, you've gotten up a bit earlier to do it before the day starts, but the compound effect of that is that you went to bed a bit earlier. So like you're prepped, you're organized, you got your shit together, and you're ready for your fun and your time, and that's so important. Especially with the bloody working environment that most are in these days, where it's tough to determine the difference between your bedside and your office now. Like, so it's important to just, I suppose, go backwards a bit and reconnect, and do it in a fun way. Like all this, you could easily go down the rabbit hole of all the science and all the health benefits and the endorphins and the hormones that are triggered and stuff like that, which a lot of people do find interesting, and we do as well. But we're just about promoting the experience first, to then start the conversation of the nitty gritty details. The way that we try to do it, so like communicate, educate, inspire people or communities about the power of the sauna, is kind of what our slogan is. So yeah, we're kind of going the way of it as if it's the new pub in Ireland as well. Just social engagement at the forefront, health orientated, time for nearest and dearest, all allocated to what you want to do. So, as I said, we're only getting started, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, man, that's an incredible angle on it. Saying that like the new pub as well, because yeah, I think a lot of people are looking for other ways to hang out.
100%. Like, at the end of the day, like, take the drink away from the pub. What is it that you like about the pub?
Yeah,
It's the environment. Like, it's the environment.
it's hanging out with your friends.
It's literally like, even if you are on your phones at the pub, which is kind of just sacrilegious anyway, but like just in the way that we are, you're definitely more consciously trying to be off it anyway when you're in the pub, which is just a natural kind of given. And I just think it's a great, like a great kind of like benchmark, let's say, of an environment purpose service. So like you've got this service that is giving you this area that allows you to detoxify from digital whatever screens, and just put your health at the forefront, but not really. It's like you say health and you think white coats and doctors and people telling you how to live your life, but like I think of health as like good crack, fun, having it with other like-minded people, meeting new people, and your own and like-minded people. So yeah, there's a lot of work to do because we haven't got anywhere near communicating that properly yet. So big rebranding coming soon. So it's exciting.
Well, yeah, that message was class. And how did it come about? So, like you say, like when you're playing and stuff, that you were kind of swimming in the sea, and it's been something that you've done for a while. But like, why then did you just decide, right, I'm going to set up a business and I'm going to build a sauna and I'm going to like, how did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, like as I said, like swimming is always a part of me. But like that doesn't mean that like. So I think that even alone straight away, people are just like, oh yeah, sure, your man swims in the sea every day. He's mad. He's this mythical creature who just like does it twice a day and has gills now. Like it's not that. It's just like you go through waves and troughs with it. Like as in, I'm now swimming like twice a week, maybe max, and like because you do get like obsessed with it. And it's like training when you're getting really good at an exercise, you're getting really good at thing, you're seeing the outcome, you're seeing the output, so then you're like, I'm gonna keep on doing this, and it's just not sustainable. So like that to me was sea swimming. I was getting to the stage where like I was swimming every day, and then it was like if I didn't swim, it was counterintuitive and counterproductive. Where like I'd just be pissed off no matter what. Like I'd just be like, oh fuck's sake, I'm gonna have a bad day. Sorry, excuse the language, but and then yeah, so the idea, I suppose, like going through rugby, different routes as well. Like started in Leinster, went to New Zealand, then short term in Munster, and then out to Connacht for a bit as well. And there wasn't a contract left, or there wasn't a contract offer for me in Connacht. And I'd gone the route of trying to secure a long term contract with rugby to then worry about my studies after that. Now, I did manage to secure a sport and exercise management diploma in my time in Leinster in the academy. But like I was just obsessive with rugby, like it was my everything. So until I got that, that was the way that I was going to deal with it because I knew back then anyway that I just wouldn't have been okay with if something didn't work out, and I would have just blamed it on like I was too tired because I was doing college work or whatever. So then when I knew that I wasn't going to get kept on in Connacht, looking around elsewhere and had a few offers to go abroad again, but I was kind of like I thankfully had written out a lot of goals coming back from New Zealand, and they were very achievable, very like smart goals, we'll call them, like the specific, measurable, attainable, realistic targets. And I just thought that I wasn't hitting it, so I had to kind of really think long and hard about what I wanted to do next. And yeah, I decided to go back to college because I had this idea in the back of my head after trying to get so many people to try and swim with me. Um, and I just knew that if I didn't get it in a framework or didn't get it on paper or didn't have like that push from a hierarchy from like an educational point of view to actually make me do it because it wasn't natural to me to do that, then I just would never do it. So as opposed to having this cool concept, I just wanted to scratch the itch and then started doing my research on it. Started seeing the barriers that to entry for the market. Started seeing the trend as well of sea swimming and hot cold immersions, and I just started getting quite obsessed with it as well. Like, and then just getting really, really into the possibilities of connecting it to everything and trying to create the perfect weekend day is what I was always kind of thinking of doing your kick of health, like going for your exercise, and then create a destination where that's the destination point. So like you run, cycle, hike, walk to this destination, get your recovery aspect, and then replenish it with your treats and your coffees and your a lovely weekend day. In my opinion, I don't know much better ones to be honest.
I
Like,
agree.
and I suppose that's with timing and everything in your life as well. And some young lads would be looking at me being like, "Oh yeah, sure, like the rugby didn't work out, so your man went second best." And I was like in my head now, like I genuinely am so thankful that I'm in a place where I can look back at my career, my rugby career, and just go, "I'm so happy with what I achieved." Because if you asked me that 3 years ago, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, whatever, what career kind of thing." But it's so nice to look back at your traumas, I'd say, and like, and I use that term because like I think like everybody goes through them, but you can either let them guide, like you can either let them like I suppose bring you down a way that probably would be less attractive, or you can use them to your advantage and like make sure that you do things differently and make sure you take action. And every action you take is an expression of value, and I think that that's kind of what pushed me on to go for it.
Yeah, that's unreal to hear that you're so happy with like looking back at what you did achieve. Like it's awesome to hear that because I know a lot of a lot of people, whatever level they play at, regardless if they got to where you got to or whatever, they've
Hmm.
regrets about certain things and oh, if only I did that. But it's just unreal hearing that. And you mentioned they're obsessive when you were playing. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, oh, well, I mean, like, I don't like you can't be in an environment like that without being obsessive about your performance or constantly analyzing it. And I suppose that probably was a big impact on my performance because I wouldn't naturally be very quantitative. I would be very measured orientated when I was younger playing. I was just like I just liked playing a lot and probably wasn't aware of a lot of my skill set. And I was a fat little kid, but like I could catch and pass very pretty well and like hitting lads. So like that's all I thought of it and like worked hard. But then you get segmented into different measurements of like meters, high speed meters, gym scores, like your off pitch stuff and all this stuff. And for any bloke, it's quite overwhelming. And I suppose probably took me quite too long even to adapt to that environment. My best rugby years or rugby moments are my 20s years, like with Irish 20s and being coached by Mike Ruddock. I just really connected with him on that level. Like we had a very similar philosophy, and although I was probably, not very accessible to my mates and stuff like that at that time, I thought that it was everything I wanted to do. So it was just totally okay with me. I had totally made up my mind that it was okay with me spending this much time on doing, just watching rugby even or analyzing my opposition or whatever. So yeah, it definitely. When I look back, I'm like, holy god! Like if you split your hours into a week of say 60 hours, like there was about like 50 odd anyway, minimum of a young bloke just watching rugby or rugby orientated activities. So I definitely categorize that as like in the higher bracket of interested. I wouldn't say obsessive because like I don't think that's very healthy at all for anybody. But yeah, I like when you get to try to live your dream and it becomes within an arm's reach, you're going to do everything you can to make it a reality. So I suppose that's kind of what it was.
Cool. Yeah. No, I've had different thoughts on this, and I was chatting to a mental skills coach recently, David Galbraith, who works at Japan, and he said that like there's nothing wrong with because I would have thought being obsessive and all in whatever like could be a bit like you say bad or detrimental, but you were probably loving it, were you, when you were watching rugby and stuff? Were you, or was it a chore?
No, I suppose like when it's going well for you, yes. And when that was for me, I was very young with not a lot of worries like of life in general even,
Mm.
so like it like there was a lot less factors to potentially worry about when my best years were anyway in my head. But then when the times got tough and you're not getting picked and you're trying to break into a squad and you're just trying to think like why am I not getting here, like why is like starting to believe your own self-talk. And if your self-talk's very strong, very good, then game on. But if it's maybe taking a hit and the voice in your head is saying this coach doesn't like me, he doesn't like the way I play, I'm gonna have to change my whole dynamic. I'm gonna have to change my game. I'm gonna have to change everything. Like if I get new diet, I'm gonna start a new diet. And it's like so things that like you think are connected but are just not. You're overthinking everything. So yeah, I suppose when things are going well, yes, you love it, but again, I would question how cognitively in tune you are then about everything outside of rugby. And like, so then say when everything is going well and you're thinking that hard about it, and then an injury happens, like how the hell are you going to cope then? How do you deal with that then? Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, when you're Same there, like yeah, for sure. I've had it as well, where if something's not going right, you question everything. You're like,
Oh,
if, you know, if you've one little setback, like you get dropped off one team, and it could be a splitting hairs decision, you don't know, but a coach will be like, oh, is it Steve or Brian? Geez, I'll just go with Steve.
yeah.
And then I'd be like, I'm the worst player in the world. I'm useless. I'm no good. And then you question everything. But when you're saying there, Mike, like I was coached by Mike as well. He's unreal, and that you were playing your best rugby under him, and like you said, you were a fat little kid or whatever. But was it that he just like let you be you, like you just played the way you were, the way you always had in school, and just expressed that?
Yeah, I suppose I just got his system very quickly and probably faster than others. And in my own peer group, I would have definitely perceived myself to be a bit of a natural leader as well. So, and then also in the position I was playing in a 10, it all just seemed to fit very well. And on top of that, I worked my nut off. And I think Mike saw that very early on. But I got on very well with Mike from I suppose like an emotional level, like very charismatic. You could throw a joke at him and not worry about the wrath. Like for me anyway, and that was a very important part for me with people. Full stop. Never mind a coach or not. And I'm only realizing that now. Like as in, he's a very sociable guy and very social and love talking to people and love interacting with different people and always have. But like when I went into that professional environment, then that wasn't necessarily the norm, and I then probably thought that I had to adopt this different mentality and kind of go a bit more like get your job done and next job focus and you probably do like as in to a certain degree like but yeah I just struggled with adapting into that. I think like the more I look back at it now, I've had to do a lot of work on myself to like get back and or to get into this state where I'm happy to talk this way about it like and it's really nice to be able to, but it doesn't just happen overnight. Like so you got to do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of work, you got to do a lot of self reflection and cold hard honest talks with yourself and again, that's the beauty of rugby though, is like it makes you equipped to be able to do that. Like it makes you able to take some tough news and then go, okay, how do I fix it? Problem solve and just adjust to the external factors that are facing you now. Like
Yeah. Yeah, I understand as well that self reflection. I think what I've found is a big part of it. You kind of think like I was doing my best at that time, whatever my best was. You know, like
yeah,
I'd look back as well, I'd be like, should have done this, should have done that, I should have been this way, should have been that way. But
mm.
once you just kind of accept that like you were trying your best,
yeah, literally,
then
like, yeah. That's it. Like
yeah.
it is, and it's and again, like ask me to say something like this 3 years ago, I would be like, oh yeah, you loser. Like, but like it's very interesting to be able to just go like timing's a lot to the game too.
Mm,
Like everything has to go your way. Like when you're coming into a system where you look at a list of Johnny Sexton, Ian Madigan, Cathal Marsh, Ross Byrne, Joey Carberry, and Steve plonked in there in the mixer, like you're kind of just like this is pretty surreal, like and again, I probably would have been like biting at the or chomping at the bit to actually just be even in that environment. And again, I probably didn't cop on a bit and just go right. That was your like, as in getting the academy, good achievement, next job. I probably didn't do that fast enough in my eyes to survive. Um, and then you like, yeah, again, like add the list, Jimmy Gopper coming in the mixer as well. Like, so just kind of like time is everything. A coach's perspective as well is everything. You need to have that relationship with them, and it's getting harder and harder for blokes to actually put the hand up now with the conveyor belt, the talent that we're producing in the country. So I really do feel for the lads in that pool. It's never an easy time, even when things are going well. There's nothing secured yet. You never have security, so it's just being really focused on actually remembering to enjoy your time and also to just work your nut off. Like do what you know you're good at, and then if something does go wrong, as opposed to you and I changing absolutely everything. Maybe try changing one thing first and then see how that goes, as opposed to throwing everything out and just going, all right, starting again, starting my whole career again.
I'm going to be a completely different player. Yeah,
I'm gonna be a
yeah,
new man.
yeah. And so you got a couple of caps for Leinster, and then so what? At the end of the academy, was it they just said there's nothing there for you? They're not keeping you on.
Yeah, again, so like I started making my caps in Leinster when I was in like second year academy, and again just catching a lucky break through a few injuries, and I had a good preseason and got a few nods and made my debut against Scarlets for 20 minutes off the bench and dreams come true kind of stuff. And then Ben Teo got signed then, and I was playing 12 at the time, and then Matt O'Connor was involved as well at the time. He's the head coach, and um, he was like, "Look, Steve, you're going well, but we need to get Benny some game time." Totally understood, probably too well, and not be more annoyed about it. Um, but then that game, Jesus, it was Edinburgh we were prepping for, and I probably just did the one thing that no player should ever do, and I just switched off. I was just going through the motions through the prep week of training, and I was like, "Ah, sure, look, Ben's playing. I'm not going to be involved. Blah blah blah. I've been told that I'm not going to be involved." And then Ben breaks his arm after like 12 minutes against Edinburgh. I get screened off at the bench, totally unprepared, and I just had a bit of a night. I had like three knock-ons in that game, but then, if I actually look back at that game, I had a very good defensive record and did some great things off the ball as well, and some good additions to it. We won the game and everything like that, but I just never got near a team after that, and I just knew I'd lost the trust in the coaches and probably not equipped to, I suppose, address it, and very emotionally driven as a young fella as well. So tried to just work through it as opposed to bring it up and ask, what are the work ons? What do I do? How am I going to get this back? How am I going to earn your trust back? Sort of thing. So, yeah, and then got offered a contract to go to Edinburgh, and unfortunately, I failed my medical over there. With a shoulder, I had a labrum tear, so I had an 18-month contract ready to go. Went over, did the fitness tests and everything, and I just got the arse chewed off me basically to get the feck out, and I went back to Leinster and got my surgery then, and yeah, I kind of didn't know what to do. And then a buddy of mine, Gav Thornbury, playing for Connacht now at the moment, and my old coach, Kurt McQuilkin, defensive coach, said, "Would you have any interest in going down to New Zealand and just to get away from the Irish rugby scene and try something new?" And the second I just heard it, I was like, "Yeah." I hadn't even done my research. I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to just fall back in love with the game, just hating it." And then got down there and fell in love with the place. We were playing semi-pro stuff down there, and we were working as well in a meat factory, and it was grim out, but like some of the best times in my life to look back at. Like, so I'm Gabber calling it a J1, like we're up at fucking 4 o'clock in the morning at a meat factory, like it was ridiculous. But yeah, hilarious time. But like again, cut short, got an offer to go back to Munster from Anthony Foley and Razzie Erasmus, and then God bless him, on my second week of arriving off the plane, he passed away, and I only signed for a short-term deal, and a very messy time to come into any new environment. And then yeah, I suppose like the last thing they were worrying about was developing Steve, when the bigger picture is let's make this season for Axel. Dead right. Um, and then I got my opportunity then at the end of my 3 month contract with Connacht, on the back of Jack Carty getting a potentially season-ending injury, and I get a phone call from Pat Lam, who's literally the week before announced that he's heading to Bristol mid-season. So it was just bizarre wage, and then signing at the same time was a good buddy of mine, Tom Farrell, as well, who I know you used to play with as well, Bri. And with the two of us, like I would have kept up with Tommy when I was down in New Zealand even, and he was like, "Come here, did you get a phone call here about going to Connacht?" And we were like, "Yeah, let's go, great crack, unbelievable! What a dream." And then like just the way that the doors swing is hilarious. And like I'm not the only ones with these stories. Like every single player has these stories. It's incredible. It's incredible how small of a moment it is, and time is everything, and everything happens for a reason. I firmly believe it. So, yeah, I can't even remember what the question was, Brian, but
No, that's class.
that was kind of the story anyway.
Yeah. How was going to New Zealand like? So I know when I was younger as well, like it was very much like the Irish rugby. You're just so blinkered, I suppose it is, and that's all you see. Like all I saw was playing in the Connacht system, playing with Lansdowne, AIL, Connacht Eagles, whatever, and you don't even think about anything else. But and you said it was incredible. And I know from moving abroad as well how just incredible it is playing rugby elsewhere. But yeah, were you just so fed up with Leinster that you were like, or fed up with how things went that you were like, I need something else.
I suppose like it was a combination of things where like injury, and then in fairness to Peter Smith, his he came in as academy manager in my third year, and in fairness to him, he literally his first protocol was sat me down and said it straight to my face, like, look, Steve, there's not a contract here for you. But I'll never respect that man more for just saying it like it is and allowing me then to process it and think next steps and actually fix it. There's nothing worse than being dragged along, and
No.
come April then you're told no contract, and it's like, what the hell? Like, that is just heart wrenching for anybody. And I suppose, yeah, so it's like that, and then also the kicking the nuts with the injury and losing the contract to Edinburgh. Um, I was kind of just like, I did a lot of thinking off the pitch for the first time, really, like, because I hadn't really got too much of a bad dose of an injury, and just started thinking as like you were just saying there, like, as in I would never thought of anything other than rugby. Like, and nothing mattered. Like school, good luck. Like, it didn't matter. Um, and I suppose you get praise for that as well, for like dedicating your life to it, which is also kind of a negative too. Like, as in it's not really that healthy for driving that type of an environment for a young fella. But again, you do have to sacrifice a bit, but like not bloody everything. Um, and I wanted just to fall back and over it because I love rugby. I love the entirety of it. I love the values of it. I love being the spectator. I love the pre-game, post-game. I love the
Mm.
culture. I always will. Um, and I wanted to get a taste of that, and also play a power sport, like. So, and then New Zealand was always something on any boy's mind who was interested in rugby, and the opportunity came, and Christ, like, it was a short stint, but God, I just I'll never forget the memories I have down there. Like, just even simple things like you would never think that you're thinking on a pitch back in Ireland. Like, say, like, I came on off the bench my first game in Wanganui, and I see a prop just on a sideline ruck, clearly eyeing me up, being like, I'm going to run over this little fella here. And I'm thinking, I'm going to shoot out a line here now and shot this lad by the ankles because he doesn't even know what I'm capable of here. And sprint off the line, shoot off the line, complete defense system error. And like, it didn't matter in my eyes because I was going to do it. I was going to catch him because I just thought that he was going to run me over, or that he thought he was going to run me over. And he just no looks. Just stares me in the eye and just tips the ball on like this. And it's just like a line break straight away. I was like, hey, fantastic start to my career in Wanganui anyway. But like, again, just not even realizing that that's the way that you eye up somebody who's in front of you. Like, okay, 120 kilos. He's all he's doing, and it's all done in a snapshot. And just learning that even and understanding it is such a cool experience. Like, just figuring that out, and really finding out what kind of player you are.
Yeah, for sure. And on that, what you said about Peter Smith, like huge respect to that. I remember like being just so upfront and honest. Like I think coaches, like when coaches can be, I think sometimes coaches like they they don't say it and they back out of that because they're afraid to have those difficult conversations. But as a player, you want nothing more than just knowing and having comfort in that. Like I remember my younger brother was in the Connacht Sub Academy, and he
Mm.
found out a week before his exams in May that he wasn't getting a contract. And I remember just being like, wow, like such, that's ridiculous that they couldn't say it a month or two earlier, 3 months earlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so when you went to New Zealand, was it still like wanting to be a pro, wanting to get back to Ireland, wanting to reach the heights that you had dreamed of 2 years ago, we'll say?
No, like genuinely not. Like I was, no joke. Like when the offer to go back to Munster, it just wasn't on the radar. Like, as in I was getting away. Like I'd sign myself up for minimum 2 years to get down there and just find me. As again, cliche that sounds, but like I was just ready to delve a little deeper and figure out a bit more of Steve, rugby or not. Um, and I was just kind of settling in, just finding my feet. We had a massive game, top of the table clash against South Canterbury. And I'll never forget it. We beat them like 36-33, and all the lads from the meatwork factory came down. And, these boys are rough as old boots now. Like, and they did nothing but take the piss out of us when we first walked in the door. And then when they saw that myself and Gabby were somewhat decent, they're like, "Oh, you boys can play, eh?" And like just earn their respect. And we went down to Wellington then that weekend and just like had a great time. And I really remember just like sitting back having a glass of wine. I was like, "This is it. This is what I want." Like like as in balance of working hard, playing hard, and getting the results and getting to recover and chill out and enjoy it, like the fruits of the wine, let's say. And just going into work on the Monday with beam and smile on your face, even though it was at 4 in the morning at a conveyor belt, like being a meat worker, and then like even having the crack with the lads came in and was like, "Oh, do you remember you did that show and go and all this stuff?" And like, just again, I couldn't have enjoyed it more when I got to that moment where I was like, "Oh yeah, this is there's definitely something here." Like, and then I get a phone call from my dad then, just being like, "Well, how are things?" I was like, "Yeah, all good." And he's like, "Well, look, I'm coming down." And I was like, "Huh?" Because he kind of thought that he was going to come down eventually, but it's after like 6 or 8 weeks, like, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm coming down," and he hadn't told me anything. And then he did get down eventually. He had a great time, and he was like, "Look, there's an offer there for you for Munster," and I was just like, my initial reaction was like, "Oh no," but like that would like again that would have been the total opposite reaction I would have ever expected to come out of my mouth. But like I was just like, well, I can't not take this opportunity. It's everything I'd worked for. Um, so I'm a big believer of picking up the phone and having a look on the other side myself, because yes, I do take recommendations off people, but again, as I said earlier, you know nothing until you've experienced it yourself. So I just had to give it a go. I would always regret or always be saying, "What if I didn't go back?" Because it was everything to me. And then yeah, everything happened then, and yeah, again, just like an unbelievable journey. Like,
Yeah. And what was semi pro down there? So like was that, I know ITM Cup and like Country, is that like the one below that?
yeah, so
The
the Heartland Championship's called, and it's ran the same calendar way of the ITM or my 10,
ITM.
and they basically like it's pretty much like provinces. So you represent the
Mm.
province, so you get selected from your clubs to that. But it's a really interesting league because you get a lot of ex-professionals on their way down playing, and then you get a lot of young up-and-coming lads. So
Mm.
there's a big gap there usually between the young bucks and the old fellas, and it's a great league because you have a really high standard, but it's kind of like college football. There are a few mistakes, but that makes it really entertaining. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
great learnings from that league. Like and the way they play, they just run everything, and that's music to my ears. Like that's all I wanted to do. I wasn't exactly the greatest tactical kicking 10, like, but it was just it was hilarious when I went down there, and I will never forget again. First line of clearance, like we're on our 22 in the pocket, bash a kick, absolutely delighted myself. and the lads are screaming at me, being like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, I was like, "What you mean?" Like, they're just like, "It's 3D2 here, like we're on." Like, I just didn't even come into my head because I was so driven into like zone based training and like get out of here and like you're in danger, kick it, get out of here. And I was devastated because naturally, if I wasn't thinking, I all I do is look for a double pass to bloody try and get ourselves out of here. Like, but hilarious, just learning that, like, so good.
Yeah, it's mad when you get the confidence then to play what you see and play in that way. Like I remember I was the exact same, and then had Nigel Carroll and Connacht, and it was like scrum on our own five. If they go three back, we're running, obviously. And then I was like, oh, we're we're going, and it's just you're like, what? We're not kicking, and all of a sudden you just see so many more possibilities. And whereas I think a lot in Ireland has probably changed now for sure, but 10 years ago when I was growing up, it was just as I say, kick, get out of your own half.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd say you probably kicked more as a number eight than I did as a 10 when we were playing
yeah,
each other. Like,
yeah, probably, and that's probably why. Yeah, yeah. And so, what was the schedule like then in New Zealand? Like semi-pros, you're working and was like Tuesday, Thursday evening training, and then gym in the morning, or what? What? How did that work?
again, like it was very much like the club schedule here, let's say. So like you were expected to do 2 to 3 gym sessions a week and in your own time though, and then um, Tuesday, Thursday were the training sessions. But like you have to remember, like the team that we were on, I'd say there was only 2 lads on the team who actually had an office job because they were all farmers. So they're on their feet constantly and they literally run for fun. Like as in I couldn't actually fathom how they just love to be active. Like sitting down in front of the telly is not an option. Like it's not a thing. It's not done there. And then the fitness sessions that we did there were so grim, so old school, and like there's a track around our pitch called it was Cook's Gardens, the name of the pitch, and we did this absolutely disgusting fitness session because we let in too many scores the week before or something like that. And it was like 4 400s, 3 300s, 2 200s, 1 100, and then work your way back up again
Oh,
on top of other fitness. Like I was just like, this is the grimmest thing I think I've ever done in my life. Like,
yeah,
I would definitely fancy myself to be fit as well. Like, and I was absolutely mid pack, if not at the back. Like, so
yeah. That's bleak.
it's a different way. Like, like self and Gav would go down, cocky out in the gym, like well able just from the way that we trained, and like even our old housemate TT, who's now currently with Connacht, like he's been capped by Samoa, and he never really stepped foot in the gym before when we were there. Like, and then you just throw him under a fucking bench press. He's doing 150 kilos. I'm even thinking about it. Like, you're just like, this is actually terrifying. But yeah, so it was very much just like done in your own time because it is still like some are semi pro, some aren't, some are reps, and so it's all very much it's very similar to the club. It's very similar to the club kind of system here, where it's a Tuesday, Thursday, and then you're expected to do 2 to 3 sessions in your own time, and then game day.
Yeah, good stuff. And how then was Connacht? Because you what, were 2 years there.
I got like a season and a half. It's like because I came in mid season with Pat, and then Kieran Keane came in then for my second season. Um, but yeah, Connacht, like, as in, if there's ever a place in my heart, it's bloody Galway now. Like, as in, I absolutely love the place. I love uh, the people there, the pace of life, just the club feel in comparison to the other places. Now that could be a bit of a detriment to it as well, and why it's not they're probably not performing as consistently as they should as the other provinces. But it's absolutely like I can only see myself ending up there some shape or form. I loved it. I loved it. I suppose with the friends that I made down there and teammates that I was with. Um, but that was all off pitch, and then from a rugby perspective, it's terribly frustrating. Like terribly frustrating for myself. Like in particular, like I remember actually getting a few strings, a few goes, came off the bench to play against the Cheetahs, and just doing well and securing the bonus point win against them, and then getting the nod to play against Edinburgh then the following week, which again had a lot of emotional attachment to it for myself. Um, and then I remember kicking 7 out of 7 kicks against Edinburgh, came off after 65 minutes, and just delighted with myself. And then I get dropped the following week then with no kind of like communication, let's say, and no thought process, and not understanding it, and uh, hilarious enough, only talking to Jack there recently, Jack Carty, who I got on immensely well with, which is bizarre considering we were, going head to head. Really, like I've never got on better with a fella that I'm fighting a jersey for. But he was actually saying it's like it was one of the most bizarre decisions in my career that like you got picked or you got dropped after that game because they were playing Edinburgh there recently, and I was only chatting to him there, just randomly. I can't even remember why I was chatting to him, but yeah, it was terribly frustrating from a rugby perspective. I just never got a flow, just never got a mojo going. Even when I was playing well, I didn't really get that like assertive confidence of sitting back and just being really intuitive with the game plan. So I firmly believe like if I was given about 3 or 4 cracks at it and just 3 or 4 like starting games to be able to get to the pace, understand that pace, and then make my mistakes. Everybody does, and just make sure you don't make the same one twice. Then I've wholeheartedly believe I would have had a much better crack at it. But you can't ask for that game time these days. It's terrible. It's terrifying at how cutthroat it is until you get credit in the bank, until you're known as X player and X player does this, and that's the part of Irish rugby I really hate. You get pigeonholed straight away into that kind of player, no matter what kind of work you do, or how much you work on your negatives. It's always gonna go back to the way that you have been perceived. So yeah, that was Galway. It was absolutely amazing, but then from a rugby perspective, probably a lot. Yeah, it was very frustrating from a rugby performance perspective. So
That's mad that you kicked 7 out of 7 and didn't play the next game and didn't get any communication as to why. I just
yeah,
it's just bad. Yeah, it's just that's bad.
oh, it's yeah. I'm sure. Look, I'm sure I'm not the only person who's gone through that
Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
I'm sure you've been on your fair share of tough conversations as well. But like, you'd rather a tough conversation than no conversation. So
Yeah, and if a coach can let you know what you need to get better at, because like you say, it's only now that I'm coaching a good few years and I'm a bit older and all that I can see things from a different perspective, and you see like players as people, and you understand, having been through those, that you can't just be like not put someone in a team and not explain why. Because then as that player, I just, as we were saying earlier, it's like you go through, I'm useless, I'm this, I'm that, and then you could nearly be done for. Meant,
yeah,
you could.
yeah. I just yeah, uh, it's coaching is such an art. Like it's nuts. Like I'm obsessed with Lancaster, his philosophies on it, and just the way he does things. I just in awe of it. Like it's actually insane at how he manages people. By the sounds of it, as well. Because I'm obviously not in the environment, but like Christ, I don't think I've heard of a man just collectively have such respect in a squad.
Yeah,
So
for sure. Likewise. And then I saw you were in with Enda McNulty, working with him. I saw that on your LinkedIn for a year.
yeah, yeah,
How was that?
great man. Again, that's kind of naturally where I thought the route I wanted to go after rugby, and the course I was in. So I was in sports and exercise management in UCG. It offered a placement stint for 10 weeks, and I had received quite a lot of mental toughness training from Enda when I was in the academy, and got a lot out of it. And I just reached out to him, just saying, "Look, I'm looking for a 10 week placement. Would you be keen on taking me on board? I'll do whatever you need me to do, sort of thing." And great experience, unbelievable experience, because Enda's business was growing immensely, and he's let's say he's quite a controversial character because he's very set in his ways, and he will put you on the spot, and he will question you. But again, like I only just absorbed as much as I could, because it was immensely tough for me to kind of like, when I wasn't going to rugby or continuing in rugby, I just kept on seeing like, oh, I'm a failure, I'm going backwards here, and oh, I can't even go back to college. And only for my girlfriend really just kind of snapped me out of it, just being like, Steve, are you joking me? Like, as in, just because you're not playing rugby doesn't mean you're going backwards. Like, if anything, you're going forward here. You've released that, you've done that, and now you're getting to go forward with your education, secure that, and then move on to your business plan and do XX. And then it's until you start thinking that way, and again, it doesn't happen overnight, do you really think that you're actually getting anywhere? And I suppose Enda really helped me with all that. And again, would have driven me to, uh, you know, I suppose back up the chat that you're saying about this concept and this business idea. And I was like, I'm just a devil for trying to connect things always. I was like, Enda, look, when I set this up, we could easily bring corporate things to here, or sports players here, and it just connects so well. And he was like, okay, set up your business first, and then we'll talk. And again, tough to hear when you're all excited and everything, but unbelievable to hear, and also, put your fucking words to action. So that was class. It was great to experience and see from two sides of the business, corporate wellness, and then sports performance as well. So really varying ends on the spectrum there, on levels of detail and knowledge, and different wants and needs. Again, like, there's no point in going in talking about detailed diet plans to corporate wellness, where you're talking to professional athletes who know it inside out and are just looking for 1% better, as opposed to you could get a 15, 10% or 20% gain from these people here. Like, so it's just so interesting, such an interesting business. And then, but yeah, I had my idea at that stage, so I was just using it to kind of, I suppose, constantly bring it into my realm and my environment. And how is this going to benefit me? Yes, okay, I can do this with this. This information is useful. This way will work. Blah blah blah. So it's really easy when you have a purpose. It's really great to be able to just actually see these examples and use them as case studies.
That's cool. Yeah, I chatted to End on this, and I think he's incredible. I love people like him, Tony Robbins, all those kind of people, whatever label you put on them. But it's funny you mentioned there about your ideas for years down the line, and it's always the case, isn't it? It's like, do step number one.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Oh yeah.
know, 'cause so many people, and I have been there in the past. You have all these dreams and ambitions and this, that, the other, but you never do step number one, and that's what holds 99% of people back. They've all these
100%.
dreams.
100%. I think, like, if you have a creative brain, probably the hardest thing to do is actually get it on paper, or conceptualize it, or framework it. And it's those who manage to do that. And then, like for any sportsman, for a rugby player like yourself, myself, like, once I can see a process in the system, I'm in. And it doesn't matter how much input is needed. Then it's because the output's going to come. And when you see that process, it's like, okay, easy.
Yeah. You just want to attack it. You just want the grind. You just, yeah, when you've been a player or whatever, yeah, you just want to get
Yeah.
after that once you know there's a vision or something to go forward.
Yeah, you train yourself to work through tough parts. Like, even when you're about to get sick during a fitness session, you tell yourself to just keep going. You get
Yeah,
through it, and you get through it, and you do it all the time, and you experience it, and you feel great after it. And it's like, it's so worth that moment of nearly giving up, to just suppress it for that extra 10 seconds and just see the other side. Like,
it's incredible. Yeah, and that's like what we were chatting about at the start. Like I was even on the rower this morning, and like that, you want to quit, you want to quit, you want to quit. Same way, I'm sure you're swimming in the sea, same thing in the sauna, same thing. It's like, I want to get out, I want to get out, I want to
yeah,
quit, and
yeah,
you
yeah,
just keep going.
exactly.
You've been around your time, but when when you're leaving Connacht, you said you had a couple of offers. Where were they? Like, why did you put a full stop on the rugby?
Um, I suppose, going back to the goals that I had written out coming back from New Zealand, because it was such a tough decision to come back to New Zealand. I was like, I'm gonna make sure that I reach these things. So I writ them out to make sure that these are going to happen. And then if they don't, I need to have a really long, hard look at myself and what I'm doing after it. Because rugby's not forever. And again, I love the way rugby does. Well, again, from I can only speak from my experience. They equip you for life after. Like Rugby Players Association in Ireland and Irupa at the time. So I was an ambassador in the academy for them, and just I think a lot of guys don't even realize the amount of work that's done there from their side of the business and how they equip the whole round human and make them actually capable to transition into life after rugby. And during my injury and during my downtime, probably the first time I really ever had to think that way. And when I did, I couldn't stop thinking about it then. I couldn't stop thinking about plan B and like as a young fella at the time, I was 25 at the time and been through Leinster, New Zealand, Connacht, Munster in a very short succession of
Mm.
seasons, and it was just a lot. And I was like, is this sustainable? And with no degree behind your belt, I chose that route because I was confident in myself as a young fella making Irish 20s. I was like, I'm going to secure this thing coming out of the academy. There's no way I'm not getting a 2 year contract. And just having that sustainability to be able to just go and actually do studies off outside of rugby afterwards. And yeah, that was basically it. It was just the targets I set myself. So like I had offers over in England and over in New York when that new place was opening up, that new MLR was setting up. Before it was set up, it was like the first year of it. So a lot of unknowns. And again, if I had a degree under my belt, probably definitely would have jumped on the plane and gone for another adventure. Why not? Like, as in, there's many benefits to that too. Massive networking opportunities and massive experience and another culture. But as I said at the start, like everything happens for a reason. I chose my route. I set my stall out. It didn't happen the way that I planned, but I had my goals written. So that's why I stuck to it. That's why I was like, I'm going to go back to college and get this thing. And I still play rugby. I went back to my club in Old Belvedere and was honoured to captain them for 2 seasons. And you know, falling back in love with rugby again and having a nice balance with it again. And don't get me wrong, there's still a bit of like, oh, I should be playing higher now. I should be trying it more, but like I was concentrating more on my studies for the first time ever in my life, and that was cool too for me. Like I was a proper nerd in lecture halls and like mature student, making sure that I'd say every bloody student in my course hated me because like they were left 5 minutes extra because I asked a question lastminute.com sort of thing, and it's like, oh my god, we just stop. Like, but I just it's so fun when you actually get into something in that detail, get into something that like just you because you know that you like it, you know you can use this. All you want is the information.
Yeah, and I saw you ran a marathon. Did you?
Yeah, I
On your
did.
yeah,
Yeah,
unreal.
that was a great drunken mistake. Basically, I was ambassador for Movember this year because we did an online campaign for Fod Sale, and we managed to raise quite a lot of funds during lockdown. And then the following year, we were asked to come on board as ambassador. So delighted and honoured, and went down. And actually, a buddy of mine also did, Sean O'Hara, who he came to me anyway with this concept before this weekend away that we went down to Big Style, which is adventure brand and lifestyle brand, and they have a place out in Killadoon for like retreats. And we were kindly asked to go down there, and we went for a swim though previously, and he came to me with this concept being like, so I'm gonna do this thing, and I was like, what are you gonna do? And he's like, I'm gonna run 30 marathons in 30 days from November. Now Sean
Wow.
is, he's a Movember advocate. He would have gone through a lot of tough times and mental health struggles. And Christ, like if there's a poster boy for the campaign, it's this man. And I hope he never sees or hears this because I don't really ever speak positively about him because that's just the way we are.
I'll edit
Um,
it. No, I'm joking.
yeah, but yeah, so then he kind of like he'd known me well enough then and how to work me, and we had a few pints down in Killadoon, and I just turned to him because everybody had kind of heard that he was doing this, and I was like, "Yard, yeah, there's no way you're going to be running 30 marathons in 30 days, sort of thing." And you know, getting just stirring the pot of it, seeing his reaction, like especially in front of people who didn't really know. And then my brother was also down as well at that, and they were just like, "Oh, are you actually going to try it?" He's like, "I was like, he is, yeah. There's no way, there's no way." And then he goes to me, he's like, "You should up then and do it." And I was like, "Of course I could do a marathon, man. Like, sure, fat old men do marathons. Of course I could do it." Like, just trying to stir him up now, like, as in not dismissing the achievement of a marathon whatsoever, because I've
Yeah.
never done one at this stage. And he was like, "All right, so do." And I was like, "Are you challenging me now?" Like, he kind of flipped it back on me, and I was like, "All right, Grant." And I was like, "Grant, fine, I'll do it." And then we clinked the glass, and then I said to my brother, I was like, "You're doing it with me as well." We just drank the pint, and I woke up, and he's like, "You have no idea. You don't remember what you committed to." And I'm just like, I didn't have to commit to it, but like, I love committing to things. I love people who commit. Like, it's
Yeah.
part of the sea swimming part, like where it's not necessarily easy to get out of bed at 5:30 in the morning to be down for a swim at 6, quarter past 6. Like, but I love hanging around with people that I know have done the same thing and have committed to doing this thing. And I think commitment is a massive quality in anybody. So I was, don't get me wrong, I again had every intentions on doing X training and doing this and doing that, and I'd say that all fell by the wayside after like 2 weeks because I injured my Achilles, and then I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna be able to do this marathon." And I just showed up on day, what was it, day 27 from. I just like I was like, "Look, I'm gonna show up one of the days. I'm not gonna tell you when because I don't know when because my schedule was so all over the place at the time." But yeah, look, I'll try my best anyway, and just showed up on the 27th day, and they dragged me arse over the line anyway.
Wow. Unreal. Yeah, I love that as well. Like when you say something, just do it. And so you didn't really train.
Not really, like no. The most I'd covered was 20K run before it, and I was always trying to get a 30K run under the belt because that's what I was told and what I'd read up. That if you can do 30K, then you're well equipped. You should be okay. Adrenaline and the rest will get you through it. Um, but just business, COVID, life, and it just, I suppose, probably not enough time dedicated to actually putting aside to train efficiently to it. Um, but I always kind of knew I was going to do it. Like, I always kind of knew I was like, I'm pig headed enough to actually just muster through, like, you know, um, a blessing and a curse, I suppose, because you kind of know that. So you're like, look, I know I haven't prepared for it, but I know if it's just down to like grinding it out, I'll do it. But that's not a good way to prep or perform in any way. Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just one of those. A great crack, like a delighted bucket list stuff to tick off a marathon. I couldn't walk for the week after, but it was deadly to again just persevere and see through the other side and achieve it.
Nice. Unreal. Bud, been unreal catching up and chatting, and brilliant to see you doing so well. And before you go, let me know just where people can brave the elements and get into the sea swim and the sauna after a fad sail and how they can go about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's in Greystones Beach, the Cove Beach. We're there in collaboration with Rise of the Cove, which is a cafe. And then the second studio is in the Boatyard Studio, which is also down in Greystones, which is beside the beach house, which is down by the marina. So there are two places, and hopefully many more to come in the near future. And yeah, it's as I said, we're only getting started because we've been paused game for 2 years, so just can't wait to actually get cracking at it again and build a bit of momentum.
Nice. And so you go on, do you book it online? Like, do you have to book a slot online? Is that it?
That's it, yeah. Book a seat for the heat is what we say. So you're
Perfect.
guaranteed your slot, and you will have the avail of that sauna for your dedicated time. And you can fit up to 12 people at a time, and It's usually for half an hour, but we're going to start doing longer classes because there's higher demand for longer classes, which is incredible to see. Because when we started this, trying to get anybody into that thing was more than difficult. So yeah, hour will be the time slot realistically by the time people see this, and then you book it online, and it's pretty much it.
Unreal. Well, best of luck with everything there going forward.
Cheers, Brian. Thanks so much for the chat, and great to hear you're keeping so well, and well done on the podcast. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Cheers, bud.